Morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Episode 21, Pickers Market Podcast. We're Blackjack. Blackjack, baby.
It's been almost a week since I've seen you guys.
Yeah, Tyler, you've been out on vacation or whatever. It must be nice.
Living that, jet setter lifestyle over there. Never see him. We did have a long weekend.
Yeah.
We did. Cleared the Labor Day weekend. I know I had a
Summer's
decent
gone.
time. Sounds like another person. I got a little lowdown from this guy over here.
I
That
haven't heard.
his weekend wasn't phenomenal. Let's put it that way.
My Labor Day weekend, it was kind of like the word labor weekend. So it was busy. I mean, a couple things you're referring to is we moved my mom after 50 years in a house. So that was, just busy, but I mean, just kind of different. So, and then the other part you're probably referring to is we had a couple windstorms. Did you get any wind damage last week, Tyler? No. You're in a new neighborhood, so no trees, but how about you? Any damage around your house?
No real damage. I was, I put that new siding on my house. I was afraid that it was going to end up in the pond down the road, but it all stayed on. So I'm good there.
Yeah. So anyway, it was windy. And again, you guys know I live out in the
country,
in the sticks, but a lot of trees, a lot of, a few acres, whatever. And a bunch of big oaks went down. And unfortunately, like my two neighbors on each side, one neighbor had a big tree fall on his bunkhouse, which again, on the house is basically a small cabin. So then I was helping the son over there, clean that up. Mine are not a big deal. And then on the other side, same thing. They path onto the lake, a bunch of trees fell over. So I went over to help clean up. Unfortunately, I didn't realize I like chainsaw, especially in fall, getting out there, but it's way too warm to be doing that kind of work and a Labor Day weekend. So it wasn't that great. But anyway, what Jeremy's referring to is all of a sudden I'm cutting it and I feel like something in my head, and I sudden boom, 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 bunch of them. I'm getting attacked by a bunch of bees. So it was in one of these trees I was cutting right next to it. All of a sudden they came flying out, kind of like the cartoon you see. So I went running on the end of the dock. I was about ready to dive in, but that time the bees stopped chasing me. But I go up to the back to our house. I had about 6-8 bee stings in my head. I had lumps all over.
I was gonna say, I'm surprised
headache.
your head wasn't just like.
Oh, it looked like that. I got pictures at home. The kids are just laughing, but yeah, I still got some minor lumps. It was not that was Friday, so it's Wednesday, so it's almost a week.
Yeah, well,
so not a great weekend.
Yeah, Tyler, how about you? I gotta assume it was better than bee sting head over here.
Better than that, but still was project filled. So we have one of those frame TVs.
Yeah,
and so we still have never put the box in the wall yet. We've always just had the cord and the box sitting out.
Okay,
but now that our youngest son's starting to play with it and stand on it, we're like, that's probably not a great
probably
thing
not.
to
Yeah,
have.
That might not end well.
So we decided we're going to do that this weekend. Well, as I was cutting out the hole, apparently one of my outlets, instead of running the wires across through the studs, they ran it all the way up the wall, and it was the one spot that I was
where you
cut.
cut.
No
cut
way.
through it. So I learned how to do electrical this weekend.
Fire hazard at Tyler's house. Insurance company,
Yeah.
stop listening.
Your head is lumpy. His hair is just straight
Yeah.
up.
They had it so tight that we couldn't do anything with it, so we ended up having to add an outlet where the
Junction
TV
box, yeah,
goes,
yeah.
and then connect that to the outlet that was already there. So
Wow.
I had my first class, and so one of my contractor buddies came over and so he
Inspected,
fixed
that's
the
good.
one, and then was like, well, this is how you teach someone how to fish. So that was my turn. So I learned how to do some wiring this
Good
weekend.
for you.
So, and then replace pretty much our whole first floor trim this weekend too.
Wow, look at you guys.
True Labor Day weekend for Tyler and myself, not
Yeah.
Jeremy. He's out there riding around his bike like Pee Wee Herman. So.
That is exactly right. Honking the horn as much as I can. Yeah, I literally biked and sat in my swim spa. Pretty much that was my Labor Day weekend. It certainly wasn't bee filled or electrician filled. It was not. There's still a hole in my yard, but that's somebody else's problem, not mine. I just need to worry about when they come back. Eventually, I'm assuming they do.
Although, was that last week that we were talking about weather, or a couple weeks ago of like our ideal temp? This weekend was like my ideal.
Yeah, I thought of both you two. It was kind of it was 45. Oh yeah. The other thing I didn't tell you was paddle. Did I tell you about the paddleboard?
Oh yeah. I wasn't going to mention that one too, but I'll let you go.
The topper of the weekend on Monday morning, it was nice and cool. Like you guys like, oh, we got a new puppy, so I went out on a paddleboard with the puppy, which we've done several times, not an issue. But I had sweats on, a sweatshirt, I thought there's fog was coming on a lake. It was very, very nice to take a few pictures. So I'm taking pictures of the dog, and sure enough, I backed off the paddleboard too far as I was backing up. Fell right in. Sweatshirt, sweatpants. I did have a life jacket on. Scurried back up on the paddleboard, and of course, my neighbor calls me as I'm going in, and he goes, I didn't talk to him, but sure enough, he saw me fall in. I talked to him later on the day. He goes, oh, yeah, I saw you fall in. So that's lovely.
Oh, the morning coffee. Oh, there goes Keith falling in the lake.
His dog stayed on.
Yeah,
fortunately.
dog's just fine.
Oh man.
Yeah.
bad
You
weekend.
you had a weekend that you probably don't want to revisit anytime
No.
soon, I'm guessing.
We'll fast forward.
All right, gentlemen, let's talk a little market action here. The hot button of this week I want to talk about is September swoons. So we recorded, this is the second trading day of September right now. First trading day was not so hot.
Nope.
And then just kind of, the month of September, just got a couple stats for you here. The first one is since 1950, the average S&P 500 performance in September is negative. It's the only month out of the 12 that the average performance is actually in decline. And the last four have been particularly not terribly fun. Down 5, down 9, down 5, and down 4. My question to you all, let's just start real broadly, is what do you think causes this? Like, September is just kind of a bummer month in the markets, and I'm just curious as to if you guys have any opinions as to why.
I think it's, we talk about sell in May, right?
Yeah.
Go away. Not that people are not working through the summer, but I think there's just less information that is out there.
Mhm.
And so I think trading is down. And as people start to get back in the swing of things in the fall, start of the fall, I think people start to rebalance portfolios, figure out how they want their allocations to look going into the end of the year. And then you have other things that come up towards the end of the year. Obviously, this year's an election year. But I think a lot of it is just rebalancing portfolios ahead of the end of Q3, and then also trying to position yourself into the end of the year. And so you just have a lot of shuffling, a lot of moving parts, and I think the market just takes a little breather.
Okay. Gangl, what's your theory on it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not really, I've been doing it a long time, there's really not a good reason for it. I mean, there's not anything like, this happens every September type of thing. I think some people attribute it to the fact that summer vacation's over and the traders, the professionals are back at it, and maybe the market's been up nicely. I think there's a little bit of profit taking. There's another theory about tax loss harvesting, for some of the mutual funds, which I did for many years, and we didn't do much of that. So I kind of
in September though, you think?
I think that's more October event, because October month end is usually mutual funds. But I think if you're really big, you probably would start in September.
That's true. Yeah.
But again, I discount that as well. So those are the couple reasons, but I can't put my finger on any hard reason. It's not like a holiday event. I think it is summer closing, getting back to school, kind of reorganizing for the last push for the last third of the year. And unfortunately, for some reason, it seems to be a down.
Yeah.
Yesterday certainly was a bad day to start out the month.
What do you think?
We're already 2% down. We're halfway there.
Halfway there. What do you think of this theory that, especially in the last, let's call it the last 20, 25 years, right? We've had a pretty markets, again, we always say this over longer periods of time, elections really don't matter a whole heck of a lot. But in the last 20, 25 years, I would say that people pay a lot more attention to what's happening in Washington, or the potential changes in Washington as a potential of their portfolios. Again, I don't think it actually should be done. I don't think it matters. But what do you think of the theory that because now that's at every 2-year cycle, right? Because when it's not a presidential cycle, we talk about, is the House going to change over? And we've become more polarized in our election capabilities. And so the changes seem more aggressive if we do have a change in there. What do you think to the thought of there is that people start thinking about that in September about, what if this happens? Do I need to pull back as a result? Or do you think that's just noise too?
I think it's probably still noise, but I mean, it's just another variable, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's more uncertainty than could cause a pullback. But it's weird that you don't see uncertainty to the upside, right? It's weird. 11 months are actually positive. I mean, that to me that's what stands out.
That's the bigger,
right? It's like 1 month out of 12 is actually negative. In October, everybody thinks it's typically a very bad month. That's a month where we have a lot of surprises, right?
Yeah.
The crash in October. So, but that's actually an up month.
It's an up month. Yeah.
So it's I don't know. It's something's going on.
Well, too, and it's funny because Q4 is I think your best quarter. If if you separate it by quarters. So yeah, your September dip usually follows with a Q4 that's pretty darn strong. And like you said, I think the bigger story here that kind of gets lost in the shuffle is 11 out of 12 months are positive on average. I mean, that's not too bad, right? No. You'll take that odds in the casino. You'll take it pretty much anywhere. If 11 out of 12 times you're going to be positive, it's just weird that September seems to be the one. And especially lately in September, we've had some pretty, and it could just be, again, that it just happens from time to time.
But in Tyler's sell in May and go away, I guess we should change that sell in September and come back and
try not to remember. I don't know. October. I just needed to rhyme somehow.
Well, I had 3 calls with an advisor and their clients yesterday.
Okay.
And every one of the calls, the election was brought up.
Sure.
So I think that's a valid point on it. It could potentially just be people are shuffling their portfolios, and because you're starting to get more polling data on who's in the lead.
Yeah.
Maybe it's getting a little bit more accurate as people are getting more interested in who they're going to vote for. So, I mean, that certainly could be the answer. But it's also only every other year though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where we have that, right? So
that's 4 years straight has been pretty bad. Yeah.
So, but I think short-term noise, absolutely. I think regardless of whether it's a midterm election or presidential election, I think you're going to have that noise and people are going to be anxious about who's going to be in charge.
Yeah.
And so I think you could certainly have the short-term dip from that, but I think longer term, as you said, I don't think it really matters.
You think that'd be more pronounced in actually October,
you think
in the month prior to election, but it's certainly another cause for probably concern.
Yeah. I want, we always talk about this too from our side, is that just because we don't think it should happen doesn't mean it doesn't happen, right? Is that,
sure.
We talk about all the time, don't position your portfolios for politics. Don't try to adjust. Don't try to do that kind of stuff. It's just useless. But it's not that people don't do it, right? Yeah. I mean, we could tell people that until we're blue in the face. It doesn't mean they don't actually still try to do those things. So it could be an influence. I don't really know. I don't have any data to support that. It was a theory. I threw it out there. But from my side, I mean, if you're looking for reasons, that could be one. But also you could just be searching for reasons for just a random event.
Yeah.
And like we said, for the most part, 11 out of 12 months isn't too bad.
The other thing that you hear a lot about too after the fact of these big drawdowns is pension funds doing stuff. And so as we're coming up on the end of Q3, that could, not just mutual funds, but they're doing a big rebalance of switching from, because growth names have done so well this year, for example, and last year and the year before, growth names have done so well, especially tech and the big tech names, is that they're rebalancing to right size the position, right? So maybe it went from a 5% position to a 7% or 8%, and all of a sudden they need to bring that back to a 5, and put that money elsewhere. And so if you have that leadership that you've had in those big tech names and they're rebalancing out of it, I think that could be part of it too.
Yeah. I always wonder though, like the pension funds and those, I mean, that's a 24/7 job at this point now, right? I mean, if you need to rebalance, you're probably I mean, you have technology to rebalance yourself immediately and act to the exact degree you want. I agree that they could be repositioning in September and just saying, hey, I need to take a little bit off the table and adjust portfolios. But I don't think they wait for any particular time to do that at this point now.
Yeah.
I mean, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe all of them get together after, maybe they're summer vacationing too. And they come back and it's like, oh, time to do something. I don't know if that's the case.
The only reason I bring that up is because at the end of last year, we saw interest rates, and this is more on the interest rate side, but interest rates went from like 4.2 or 4.3, and they fell by the end of the year to 3.8 on the 10-year treasury. And after the fact, we found out that a lot of that was from treasuries rebalancing their portfolios. And so maybe they're doing that for equities before the September quarter end. You would think that's more of like a year end type of thing, but who knows?
Yeah. I mean, I think in the end,
at the end, who knows?
Carry trade.
Yeah,
we'll throw it.
there it is.
I read something this morning, Tyler. I figured you bring that up. That the carry trade is coming back. I'm like, oh my word! I hope Tyler doesn't bring it up today.
He's probably got the T-shirts printed already.
You asked what could it be?
He's got it like a T-shirt ticket, like the political ones. He's like carry trade 24. All right, let's switch gears here. I want to nerd out a little bit on a product, and we're not product pitch people here, but I do want to talk about it. And it's an asset that we started 2019, I think we started doing it, and it's become a pretty large staple of our business. It's structured note. For those of you, I will give a very brief definition of what a structured note is. It's basically a contract that you have with an underwriter and issuer that can really go anywhere you want. But really how we use it is a defined level of protection at the outset and an upside participation, whether that be participation to a cap or whether in certain instances uncapped. So you can build these structures in any way, shape, or form that you like with the issuers, and you can develop something that provides you some downside protection, but also some upside participation. That I hope is a quick synopsis, right? I don't want to go too deep in the
basically
weeds.
a debt obligation from an institution that's issued, right? I mean,
Yes.
whether it's Goldman Sachs or Bank of America.
Yep. So you could, theoretically build these things yourself using over-the-counter options. Good luck having fun with that.
Yeah.
Or you can go to an issuer and have them build it for you. And then it's a contract with the issuer that as long as they're going to pay their bills, they will give you your money back based upon the predefined outcomes that were at the outset of the issue.
And they usually track an equity index. That's kind of what.
For the most part, right? You can buy them to track basically any index you want, but the ways we do it is typically equity indexes and real plain vanilla ones like the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones. So I'm going to be completely honest with you. When we launched in 2019, I was a bit of a skeptic. I'm a bit of a skeptic on a lot of things. That's not unique. Because for, my thought for a very long period of time was that, you stay invested through the markets, you should be fine. And you're going to have to weather those down storms and all that kind of stuff. What I have come to find, and I would like to hear your guys' opinion on this, what I've come to find is that there is value, especially for, most of our clients are nearer in retirement at this point right now. That's typically who we work with. And the big one that you hear much more frequently than maybe when we were in the institutional world, right? Where that money's kind of perpetual, if you will. Well, they're using their money, right? They're going to use it for a particular purpose, and sequence of return risk, or the risk that you have a dramatic downside in the early part of your retirement that you cannot recover from, is a much bigger risk going forward. That's where I think these have added the most value, is providing some capability to have protection for that early stage. What do you guys think of that as a theory?
Yeah, I mean, so my previous life, I worked on the advisory side, and not that we use these specifically, but there were products that we had available that were somewhat similar. So, I mean, looking at it from that perspective, I was excited about these, just because I knew how the traction that they were getting at the time when I was in that part of the business, or products similar to it. And the fact that you can have some level of upside participation with a given index, and typically those cap rates can be much better than your annualized average return, typically speaking. Obviously not guaranteed, and then to couple that with some type of downside protection, right? Whether it's 10, 5, 20, 100, depending on products. But I just think it's a putting on my advisor hat that I used to be. It's a fantastic product to have in an overall allocation, in my opinion. So I was excited for these when we started talking about them.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a great solution. I think you nail it. Is just who our clients are. They're in retirement, and you're basically, everybody understands when you're in retirement, basically your income, your check goes away. And so now you're living off your, whether it's your pension, your Social Security, and then your investments. You don't want to see that big drop. And that's where I think these, products or solutions are fantastic, because they provide you that buffer. So you mentioned sequence of returns. It's like, okay, if we have a buffer of 20%, if the markets are down 20% in, the first year out of the gate, you're protected from it. And oh, by the way, you can still get upside to whatever the cap level is. And like Tyler mentioned, typically they're way higher than the average stock market return per year. So it's a good solution for a lot of our client base.
Yeah. And I think most people that I've talked to when we've started using them have suggested that, hey, if I exceed the cap level, if the market exceeds the cap level, I'm okay with giving that up to have that protection, that the downside protection it gives me. Like, I'm okay. If let's say it's 20 and the market does 30, yeah, I gave up 10, but I still got 20. I think most people are, in that we talk to that use these are in that boat, and they're saying, I'm willing to give that up in order to get that protection, that sequence of return risk. The damage that can cause me is worse than the negative feelings I'll have by giving up that 10% upside.
Well, it's do I wish I got the full 30? Absolutely.
Sure.
But did I sleep better at night knowing that I had that 20% or 10%?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
So like that's where that comes in.
Yeah.
Where they're okay doing that.
I think you nailed with the sleep better at night. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's a absolutely viable thing to say, is what we talk about investment plans all the time, right? And saying, stick with the plan, stick with the plan, stick with the plan. Well, if you are constantly up at night, well, your plan is probably not aligned properly with where you should be. But also there's that component of this type of product and this type of solution that gives you that downside protection also allows you to stay with the plan, because there's some inherent levels of protection in there that allow you to, I'm not going to sell everything when everybody else is doing that and their hair is on fire. I'm going to stay the course because I have this level of protection already in place.
And the other thing I'll say is these are also different than an annuity.
Absolutely.
Structured notes are different. I think the actual internal structures of them are similar, but the actual vehicle that we use them in are different than an annuity.
Yeah, the ones that we issue are typically
Yes.
shorter term. They're 1 year to 2 years.
Yeah.
So in our income, maybe 3 years, which is typically a lot shorter than most annuities.
And I think this is where, there's nothing is perfect, right? There's no perfect instrument, whether it's stock, whether it's a bond, whether it's a structured note. There's no perfect instrument. This is where I think they can kind of get a little bit of a bad rap, is that, again, as I said before, you can kind of build any structure you want. We always get asked every time, because we curate our deals for our advisors and our clients and saying, we think this is a good deal for you because of, and we keep it pretty simple. Here's the indexes we're going to use. Here's the level of protection. Here's your upside. This is something that you can use. There are also instruments out there that I don't think even us understand, let alone clients who are sold these things that can have very different indices that are very difficult to explain, leveraged downside in certain instances, and these kinds of things where if you're not properly explained what it is, can be very different than what you're actually trying to do. And so that's where this can get a bad rap, is because you can put anything into this wrapper and say it's worthwhile. You can show a 15, 20, 30% coupon, 3 times upside and all this stuff. You can show all of that if you want to within a structured note. It's just a question of the risk you're getting to do it, and understanding what your risk is. Sometimes I think that's why this gets bad reps. I don't think that's explained very well. It's like, I didn't know that I could get 15%, but I could lose, 3/4 of my money if the market's down 10% or something like that.
Well, I think when you start to customize them as well, like I remember in my previous role, there'd be some of them that were tied to like specific stocks. So there's a basket of 5 to 10 different stocks, and your performance was based on the aggregate performance of that basket. Yeah. So like you can get pretty risky with it.
Yeah.
Obviously, the more risky, you can get better returns.
Better upside.
But I mean, then you still have you still have the potential of down 30, down 40 when you're talking about individual stocks rather than a broad index.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for our clients, that's probably not, we want to stay very vanilla and kind of right down the fairway and, easy to understand terms and easy to understand indexes. So I think the other bad connotation was back in the great financial crisis, right? We had Lehman Brothers.
That's true. Yeah.
Right. I mean,
if the banks fail, these go to zero.
These are debt obligations. So then basically that's why when we get these deals, we use, the largest ones, Bank of America,
JP Morgan,
Goldman Sachs, all triple rated, high quality institutions. But back when Lehman failed, if you own one of these structured notes issued by Lehman, it was literally, you got zero back. Yeah. So it wasn't like a market correction and you got 50% of your money, you got zero. So that's
because it is a debt obligation. Of that.
Yeah. I'm asked all the time, like, what are the underlying instruments? And, I can provide that to them, but I'm like, that won't really help you out that much because you don't own them. What you own is a debt obligation with the bank. You're just basically saying, you're going to pay me this based upon these predefined outcomes. But if you can't pay anybody, guess what? I don't get anything from it. You have to understand that's the biggest risk you probably take is the credit risk here. And that's why, again, we try to work with the best of the best. Lehman was probably considered one of the best of the best at the time, but they deteriorated pretty fast.
They had some signs in it. And if you were doing what we do, what you would do is just basically sell off those notes before they actually went to zero.
Yeah.
Lehman, there was definitely some signs.
There were some signs,
cracks in the system. Right now, it doesn't seem like there's anything like that, especially the windows that we're looking at 1, 2 year, 3 year windows. Now, if you're going out 10, 15 years on some of these kind of deals,
exactly.
Who knows, right? That's even, that's
which again, that's another thing you can structure, right? You can structure a 10, 15 year note. It's like, you're taking 10, 15 years that they'll be able to pay. In all instances, maybe they do. But if you're doing it also with a bank that's maybe a little bit riskier to try to get, again, upside because their credit's worse, it's another thing you got to think about.
Yeah.
Is there anybody you wouldn't use this for?
I've even bought one myself, just so you guys, I mean, we've been talking about our clients that are in retirement. I mean, I think it's for these ones that are more equity like. I bought one that had a 15% buffer and uncapped for 2 years, right? So for me, it's like that's almost like an equity that gave me that sleep well at night, that 15%. So I think someone, if you're really, really young, you want to be all straight equity, that would be maybe the case. But that, what I described, I did buy.
Yeah,
you took a
I was
shot.
just gonna say, like, I think it depends on the terms. Like, if you can do like an S&P uncapped for 2 years with a 15% buffer or 10 or whatever, I think it could fit in anybody's portfolio. Really, like, I would even consider buying one if those were the terms. But I think if you're talking about a young person with a cap of 12% on the lesser of an
100% principal protected,
right?
And this is their equity exposure.
I think there's certain areas where it doesn't make sense at all. But I think if anybody can have some level of protection with 100% of the participation on the upside,
you go for it.
Yeah. I tend to.
Those are hard to come by.
I would say, the least person I would probably think, or I would at least question why we're doing it. It would be an asset accumulator, right? Somebody who is in hardcore, I just grow at all costs mode. I guess just out of college, hammering out the 401k kind of thing.
Or I would say someone who can't hold it from point to point. So like
that's another.
So like the biggest thing is the way that you get these terms is if you truly hold it from point A to point B. So from start of the investment to maturity. If someone needs those assets, whether it's for income or to buy something, so it could be someone that's looking to buy a house in retirement or move homes or whatever, that's probably somebody I wouldn't put in.
Yeah, absolutely. If you need this money and if you're thinking of trading these vehicles, just there's better opportunity. There's different things for
they're
you.
more they're liquid.
Oh, we can get rid of them.
You can get rid of them.
It's not like if the market falls 10% the day after you buy it, and you had 15% protection, you're just like, I didn't lose anything.
Your protection comes in at the end of the term.
So just under accumulators and people who may need that money pre-maturity, I don't tend to subscribe unless there's a reason to do. I think your second one is the bigger one. Is that, hey, if you need this money at all, just don't do it. It's okay. We have plenty of other stuff.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. We're going to wrap that one up and we're going to talk a little bit about, we're just going to throw a little spaghetti wall here. We started back in school, Gangl, you got college kids. Well, you got one high school kid left.
One left.
I got kids in the middle of things, and you're not on the plan yet, but you're on the way. But I want to talk about our own school experiences a little bit. You can take this back as far as you like. What were you good at and what did you hate, whether it's subject oriented or extracurricular oriented? What did you like and what did you hate?
Similar.
Yeah. I mean, for me, going all the way, I loved high school and college. It was a great experience. I love sports. Those are my things, and hanging out with friends. And
what'd you play, Gangl?
Yeah, I grew up in a small town, so we played everything. At the end, I ended up just being down to football. But growing up, it was 4 sports. Some I was playing double sports in the same season. And then I like football so much, I started quitting other sports to do more training, which in hindsight probably would have been better off just continuing to play more sports. But no, I think that the whole atmosphere, academic wise, I was a big math guy. I guess that's probably why I'm an investment. So I'll leave it at
that. Gym and math.
Tyler's a math guy too. Nice. I love it.
Hated English.
Hated English.
Oh, I couldn't stand trying to figure out.
I'm probably the same boat.
Yeah. I'm not a big book reader.
Okay.
I don't enjoy it. I'd rather watch a sports game or play video games or go outside. The neighborhood I grew up in, there was, I think, 10 boys, and we were all within 2 years of each other.
Oh, fun.
And we all played hockey.
Yeah.
So
that's a crew.
And the one neighbor had a sports court. So ever since the age of like probably 8 or 9, I think is when they got it. We would just be over there.
Got it.
Just all 10 of us just playing hockey, playing basketball, whatever. So I never got into the book.
Those parents must have went broke having to give you guys snacks all the time.
Oh, it was so bad.
How about you?
Oh, I mean, yeah, we're all math nerds, right? I mean, we wouldn't do this if we weren't at least enjoy that a little bit. It's funny you mentioned, I don't mind books. I've been a little bit lazy here lately, but I cannot read fiction. So my wife is absolutely all fiction all the time. And I'm like, I try and I'm like, I'm going to sleep on this. So English was tough because it's all fiction books, right? They didn't do a lot of nonfiction there in the day. Like if you give me, autobiographies, I can do that. History, I can do that. Finance, I certainly can do that kind of stuff. But you give me like just a story, I'd rather watch a movie. Just give me in and give me out in 2 hours. I'm done. So I wasn't the biggest English guy either, but I was, I think all three of us, I was a sports guy. Now was I the only basketball player here?
I played up until freshman, sophomore year.
Okay. I played until junior year. And then, I was a baseball guy too. I never played football. My mother thought I was too small for it. And she's probably right.
I was solely hockey. That's all.
That was it.
Yeah.
Never played.
I mean, I did like, a couple
beyond like sixth grade though. You were just hockey.
I think even beyond like fifth grade.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. Last question for you two. What's the thing, we all have kids. What's the thing that you wish you knew or that you're trying to pass on to your kids that is like, I wish I knew this then, that now? Do you have one that just sticks out?
Ooh, that's a tough question.
I think yours was actually interesting because that's one of the things I think about too, is stay well-rounded. Don't focus on one thing. That for me is like, I get the thought of the hockey camps and all that stuff. But if you like doing well-rounded, I would encourage that all day, every day.
That's what we did with our kids for the sports. They could play all sports except for soccer. The
anti-soccer league up there.
The one I kind of vetoed and my wife had a veto one. I forget what she vetoed, but that was kind of the one. But our kids weren't interested in soccer. I mean, but every other sport they tried and they all found their groove and they're all end up being different sports. My son went from hockey to tennis. My daughters went from softball to a couple things in softball, and then one ended up being a gymnast as well. So, and diving. So
I think mine would be effort matters.
Yeah. Hard work. I mean, if you're talking
even like high school and even college for that matter, and part of it was I was never interested in a lot of the stuff I was studying besides like math.
Yep.
But then I got to like the CFA test and like actually enjoying reading and doing that and saw how much the effort pays off.
Yeah.
Versus like putting in a tiny bit of effort and kind of just like getting by with the grades I had. And my mom always hated it because she knew that's what I did.
Yep.
I'm not there yet. Our kids are too young to teach that right now, but I think that would be hopefully my knowledge that I would bestow on them.
I think it's hard work and critical thinking. I think, and that's another thing to have your kids just think about stuff. It's just, if you do this is going to happen. If you just think about anything you're reading or, life experiences, just think, more than just what's right in front of you. How does that impact other things?
It's a good one. Yeah. I mean, the effort component, what I also say is, I think the thing that I would wish I knew, and I hope lead my kids, is trying hard and failing is absolutely part of the process. And actually it's okay. Not trying hard and failing, that kind of stinks. It's like, let's figure this out. Why, are we just doing the wrong thing, or should we be looking at, other avenues? But trying hard and still messing up once in a while, it's okay. I always took that so hard. And I remember back in the day, like thinking I needed to be perfect. And I hate that. And I hope I don't put that on my kids. I guess that's what I would say.
But your kids tried a lot of different stuff, different camps, and
I have thrown them into
everything. I'm like, wow, that's different.
I've thrown them literally into everything, and the one that didn't stick was sports, which killed me. It just they didn't have the competitive bug, and so they just never. Both of them were just like, no, not my thing. I'm like, all right, well, we'll find your thing. We'll just keep going until we find your thing, and it seems like we have a little.
I think my one regret that I do have is not doing an instrument.
Okay. That's my kids are all in there.
Like I think I was orchestra in like 4th and 5th grade. And then I didn't like it that much, but like my wife she used to play the piano all the time, and she can still play some songs just like at random.
Yeah.
Which is always, to me, that's super cool.
Right.
Or like,
it's like magic, isn't
yeah,
it?
Yeah.
For somebody
I
who
think,
doesn't play.
I think, and just rhythm, and I don't know. That'd be one regret that I have.
My
is not-
musical talent is a minus 100 on a scale of 1 to 100. So.
Oh, I can't. I
awful.
can't sing. To,
All right, I'll bring the harmonica for you, and
Yeah.
I'll let you
boy.
sing the blues next time. But
On
until
that
then,
note.
well, tune in next time and see if that actually happens. All right, until then, we'll see you later, and thanks for much. Take care.